interviewed Roxane Gay this week for the Memoir Nation podcast, and this very fascinating topic came up related to Elizabeth Gilbert's new memoir. And we talked about boundaries and oversharing and telling your story your way. These are things we want to encourage you to do, except that this memoir created a furor and a conversation. It was very provocative and maybe scandalous and ongoing. So we hope you've maybe know about it, but Brooke's going to give you a little bit of a highlight here.
Yeah, we decided to do a little video chat on this just because it is such an explosive conversation online. Liz Gilbert is a pretty polarizing figure. People love her, people hate her. And in this book, she ups the ante quite a bit because she's writing about loving and losing her late partner, Rhea. And I think some of the more scandalous things, of course, people read the excerpt in The Guardian, which was about Liz having murderous fantasies of, killing Rhea at the depths of her drug addiction when she was making Liz's life horrible. A lot of people had a lot of reactions about how she writes about addiction.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, a lot of people had a lot of reactions about the book without having read the book. And so that was another
typical
piece.
These days.
It's typical. But we wanted to focus this conversation, like you said, about oversharing. And when we talked to Roxane, it was very interesting because Roxane said, readers are greedy.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that line.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted us to explore what is happening in memoir right now, because I think this whole conversation is fascinating around what is yours to keep, what should you keep private, is anything off limits anymore? And I had asked you earlier, Grant, have you struggled with this in your own writing, knowing your own boundaries, and how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I also loved what Roxane said. She said that whatever you share in your memoir should serve the story. And I always think that that's a really good lens to look through. And I actually have this one scene that I keep going back and forth on about whether I should include it in my memoir, because I actually think it is a little bit oversharing, just because I'm not comfortable with putting it out there for everyone to read, essentially. And in the end, I think the story is told well enough without it. It's really, like we were talking a little bit about how, because readers are greedy, the ante keeps getting pushed up.
Yes.
And we all feel like we've got to go deeper, reveal more, whatever, and that we're weak if we don't, or we're kind of doing it half-assed. And so I think that guide of making sure anything in your memoir serves the story and that you're comfortable with it,
Yes.
that you're safe.
I felt that way actually after I read Kiese Lehman's Heavy, that some of the stuff that he shared was so intense, and there was abuse in all different iterations, and even Roxane shared a lot in Hunger, and here she is saying there are boundaries. And so everyone's boundaries are going to look different. I think maybe what's most important is that you know what they are, and that perhaps you come up with some sort of measuring stick for yourself, because what I like about what you just said is that you're going back and forth, which means you're writing it. So I think it is actually important to write the thing that you are scared of, and then have a sizzle factor, right? Like, how sizzly is it? Is it too hot to touch? Is it something that grows less sizzly over time, so that, maybe right now you can't publish it, but in 2 years you might be able to? But I think this is something that is going to be an ongoing conversation in our classes around what people's comfort level is, and if that needle is moving because of someone like Liz, what happens with sharing, and also vulnerability hangovers, which something about, you've written about.
Yeah, totally. I love the concept of a vulnerability hangover, and I bet we've all had them. And the irony is that we think, I always say that all the craft things about writing don't matter as much as being vulnerable on the page, because that's what we read for, that's what we feel human connection with others for. But I think you want to feel safe on the page also. And it was interesting that you gave the advice to write it, because that's what I did with my scene. I said, I have to write it and feel it on the page. And since I did that, and since I keep thinking about it, it's like we're slowly breaking up, and I think some authors maybe even feel that they need to be so vulnerable or overly vulnerable just to get a headline and sell books.
Right.
And it's probably not going to do it for you. There's more into it.
100%. You want to make sure, as Grant said, that it serves the story. This is an interesting book to read. We do recommend it. Mainly, I like Liz so much as a writer, and I think it's an interesting story for you all to decide yourselves Did she cross a line? Was it too much for you? And perhaps just that exercise of saying which parts made me uncomfortable, which parts was I okay with, is a great exercise for any writer who is just trying to find their way with something that is hot material. But still, write. That is the main thing. Write. Don't let an event like this scare you. It's not published until it's published. And so you're going to swim in all of that vulnerable content. But it's been an interesting thing to watch unfold.
Completely. So write like no one's looking, but somebody might look someday.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like no one's looking until you decide that they will be looking, at which point you get to decide which scenes to include. All right.